Hey everyone, this is What If Fan bringing you another part of What If Ninja in Jujutsu Kaisen. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name in the description below. Please make sure to support the creator. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also, a quick update, the story What If There Was a Different Luffy is going on hold soon, as we have almost caught up with the author. So once again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what the next project should be on this channel. I'm currently deciding between these three fanfics. What if Ichigo awoke his true powers? What if becoming a mangaka in One Piece world? What if Reborn is Gohan in future timeline? I will be setting up a poll for this, so please vote in the poll and let me know which story you'd like to see next on the channel. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 41, Yaga's Fluctuating Mood. A little bloodshed? You call this a little blood? Anyway, this time, everyone was very grateful to Kazuma. If he hadn't stood up, the consequences would have been disastrous. Although Kazuma always seems careless and reckless, he is more reliable than anyone else at critical moments. Kazuma said, "Don't just stand there like an idiot. Also, Shoko-san, please treat Yuji when we get back." Kazuma felt a little embarrassed about Yuji, as this was the second time he had beaten him. Although his target was Sukuna, the one who was hurt the most was Yuji. "I'm so sorry, Yuji bro. But I guess I'll have to beat you again in the future, I mean Sukuna." Shoko put her hands in the pockets of her medical robe and said angrily, "Don't act so relaxed. Aren't you afraid of becoming blind after losing so much blood from your eyes? Go back and take good care of your injuries. I will personally watch over you, and you are not allowed to go anywhere." Hiss. Everyone looked at Shoko and Kazuma strangely. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong. Forget about Mei, but why is even Shoko's attitude towards Kazuma a bit subtle? Tokyo Jujutsu High. Inside the principal's office, Ichigo told the whole situation respectfully. At first, Yaga was relieved after hearing his report. "That's wonderful. It's really wonderful. This time, Kazuma is really the MVP. If he wasn't there, the consequences would have been disastrous." Yaga had never expected that Kazuma's strength would grow to this level so soon. Even while being inside the domain of the special grade cursed spirit, he not only protected Shoko's safety but also eliminated the special grade cursed spirit. Just based on this record, he is enough to be ranked among special grade sorcerers. After Geto's rebellion, there are only 3 special grade sorcerers left, besides Gojo Satoru. They are Okatsu Yuta, Hikari Kinji, and Tsukumo Yuki. 2 are abroad, and 1 was expelled. This also leads to the fact that the high-end combat power at Jujutsu High is very scarce. At this moment, Yaga had already begun to think about a way to promote Kazuma to the ranks of special grade sorcerers. It would be best if there was an important factor that could completely bind Kazuma to Jujutsu High. After all, how could such a talent be buried? At this time, Ichigo spoke, but seeing him acting timid, Yaga said impatiently, "If you have anything to say, just say it now." Ichigo said, "The information about the place Yuji and the others went to is also wrong. The one in the Aishu Juvenile Detention Center is not a first-grade cursed spirit, but..." Yaga had a bad feeling and asked, "But what?" Ichigo glanced at Yaga timidly and continued, "It is a special-grade cursed spirit, and Yuji's consciousness has been taken over by Sukuna. Kazuma is fighting against Sukuna." After mustering up all his courage to say it all in one breath, Ichigo became so scared that he closed his eyes tightly, and even his breathing became cautious. Yaga's expression had become extremely ugly. In the office, the tense atmosphere reached its peak. Yaga was furious, but he did not get angry at Ichigo because he smelled a conspiracy. If Kazuma's intelligence error was an accident, then Yuji's was unjustifiable. Moreover, the task at Aishu Juvenile Detention Center seemed to have been assigned by the higher-ups. How could they not know what was going on inside? The real purpose of sending the freshmen to carry out this mission while Gojo Satoru was away was clear. They wanted to take this opportunity to kill Yuji. On the surface, they agreed to forget about Yuji's death sentence due to Gojo Satoru, but behind the scenes, they were playing dirty tricks? Thinking of this, Yaga felt disappointed, and his expectations of the higher-ups also dropped significantly. Are such people really worth his loyalty? That's Ryaman Sukuna. If anything happens to Kazuma, Yuji, and the others? He no longer dared to imagine whether Gojo Satoru, who was about to return, would go berserk and kill all those high-ranking officials after learning about the situation. Alas, it is becoming increasingly difficult to be a principal. In just one day, his mood has fluctuated a lot. He just got good news and was only happy for a few seconds when something even more shocking appeared before him. When Yaga was worried. Bang! The office door was pushed open. Mei walked in with her long legs and got straight to the point. Overtime pay. Yaga shook his head, feeling helpless. The debt collector is here again. Ichigo, who was standing by, saw Mei coming back and his eyes lit up. Wait. Didn't Mei and the others go to look for Kazuma? Could it be that the danger has been resolved? Seeing how worried you two look, I will be merciful and tell you some good news. Then, she recounted what had happened in the Aishu Juvenile Detention Center. 5 minutes later. Mei took the money and left satisfied. Yaga clapped his hands and laughed, the sadness on his face disappearing instantly. Good. As expected of Kazuma. First, he protected Shoko and eliminated the special grade cursed spirit. Then he actually ran over and beat up Sukuna. He resolved the biggest crisis. Now, Yaga increasingly felt that the beating he received from Kazuma was not in vain, as Kazuma was able to successfully enroll. He just wondered why 2 cursed corpses were missing when he had later counted the cursed corpses. After calming down, Yaga let Ichigo leave. He lit a cigarette and lowered his head to think deeply. If Kazuma hadn't stepped up this time, the consequences would have been disastrous. However, in doing so, Kazuma also indirectly destroyed the plans of the higher-ups. Humph. I hope those corrupt old men don't target Kazuma. Otherwise, don't blame me for the rebelling. Unconsciously, Yaga's mentality had quietly changed. Infirmary. Kazuma was forcibly pressed onto the hospital bed by Shoko. His eyes were wrapped in several layers of white gauze. And, the one wrapped like a mummy in the bed next to him was Yuji. Apart from his eyes, Kazuma didn't any other injuries. He benefited a lot from the battle with Sukuna, but he also realized his shortcomings. Chapter 42, Point Gain. That is, he has too little chakra/cursed energy. It's simply not enough. Especially after using the Susanoo, the chakra consumed was too great that he was almost drained in an instant. Just as Kazuma was thinking, the door of the infirmary was pushed open. The sound of footsteps came into his ears. The people who had come in were Shoko and Gojo Satoru, who had just returned. Just as Kazuma was about to sit up straight, a pair of hands pushed him down. Shoko leaned over to Kazuma's ear and whispered, "My dear savior, please don't move. I'll treat you to a drink later." Gojo Satoru teasingly said, "Wow. Shoko, you're really discriminating. I've never seen you be so gentle to anyone else before." Seeing this, Gojo Satoru immediately took the opportunity to make a joke. Shoko slightly blushed and glared at him. Gojo Satoru did not dare to continue speaking. He came to Kazuma and said with a smile, "Kazuma-kun, oh no. It's Kazuma-sensei now. Are you imitating me by wrapping your eyes like this? Although I know that I am the object of everyone's admiration, please don't be so fanatical. I will be shy." He. Kazuma's mouth twitched, and for a moment he didn't know how to answer. Shoko, who was standing by, picked up a stick and was about to hit Gojo Satoru on the forehead. Gojo Satoru's expression suddenly changed, and he said seriously, "Ahem. Shoko, can you please go out for a while and give him and me some alone time?" Upon hearing this, Shoko put down the stick in her hand. She knew that Gojo Satoru already knew the whole story after returning. It looked like Gojo was serious right now. So, she should suppress her anger for now. Shoko reminded, don't bully my wounded patient. Gojo replied, don't worry, Kazuma and I have true love for each other. How could I bear to bully him? Bang! Shoko shut the door with some anger. After Shoko left, Kazuma took the opportunity to tear off the white cloth wrapped around his eyes. Kazuma said, this thing is really uncomfortable up. I don't know how you got used to it. Gojo was shocked by this action and said, Kazuma-kun, don't do it, Shoko will think I did it and I will get beaten. Kazuma said, don't worry, I know what I'm doing. My eyes have almost recovered. The bleeding from his eyes was not caused by injury, but by excessive consumption of ocular power. Shoko and the others had misunderstood. After a few seconds of silence, Gojo looked at Yuji and got to the point. Kazuma, thank you for stepping ahead this time. I have a rough idea of what had happened from Principal Yaga. If you hadn't intervened, Yuji and the others would have died. Gojo sat next to Kazuma and said seriously. Kazuma was stunned. Having read the manga, he of course knew that even if he hadn't intervened this time, nothing would have happened to anyone. In the anime/manga, Yuji, whose heart was ripped out, had resurrected after reaching an agreement with Sukuna. But Gojo certainly didn't know about this. Of course, Kazuma would not miss the opportunity to improve his relationship with Gojo. Who knows? It might be useful later. Kazuma said, ahem, after all, I am a teacher now. I cannot ignore my students when they are in trouble. That's what I should do. Gojo was grateful in his heart. Sure enough, he had not misjudged Kazuma. Although his background and abilities are mysterious, he has Jujutsu high in his heart. Yaga is really old and confused. He even sent Mei to investigate Kazuma. Then he looked at Kazuma and said seriously, you also know about Yuji's matter. This incident was obviously a secret plan by the higher-ups. They just want to kill him and deny their involvement in the matter. They deliberately transferred me away. They want to eliminate Yuji, and they even put Megumi and Nobara in danger. Those old guys are simply incarnations of devils. They are just fools, who only cares about self-preservation. They get their power through just being born. Their arrogance and selfishness knows no bounds. To out it simply, they are just a basket of rotten oranges. There is no cure for them. With my ability, it's easy to kill them all. But this is only a temporary solution and not a fundamental solution. They will just be replaced by the same or even worse people. It's meaningless. So, I devoted myself to education. Cultivate strong, intelligent, and reliable partners. Gojo leaned over and looked at Kazuma seriously. He said, for example, a reliable partner like Kazuma-kun. Anyway, thank you very much for your help. I'll treat you to your favorite mochi when I have time, hee. Gojo stood up and said with a smile, how strong was Two-Finger Sukuna? Was he much stronger than the first time you fought him? Remember to call me next time. Wouldn't it be nice if we fought together as a pair? Hearing Gojo's words, Kazuma was slightly stunned. Two-Finger Sukuna? Oh, that's right. Yuji hasn't woken up yet, and everyone doesn't know that Sukuna has already swallowed 3 fingers. Seeing Kazuma pretending to be dumbfounded, Gojo held up 2 fingers and said with a smile, don't hide your strength. Last time, in order to test Yuji's control as Sukuna's vessel, I took the initiative to feed a finger to Yuji, so you actually fought Two-Finger Sukuna. Kazuma stretched out 3 fingers and said, you have misunderstood. Yuji has eaten 3 fingers. Before the fight, Sukuna killed the special grade cursed spirit and obtained a finger from its body. 3? Gojo stood in shock, and it took him a while for him to recover. He said, I see. No wonder Nanami told me that Sukuna had used his domain. This news is very important. Thank you for reminding me. After saying that, Gojo walked out the door. The number of fingers Yuji has eaten is very important. Therefore, he wanted to tell other people such an important thing. After Gojo left, Kazuma opened the system page. After the recent incidents, he had gained a lot of points. That cursed spirit born out of love alone gave him 50,000 points. Coupled with the small fry that he had killed along the way, Kazuma now had a total of 80,000 points. From this, it could be inferred that the points given by the special grade cursed spirits is not fixed at 10,000, but is determined based on strength. Kazuma thought of the 4 disaster curses that were about to appear: Jogo, Hanami, Mahito, and Dagon. These 4 are all heavyweights. If he kills them, won't he become rich instantly? Chapter 43, 100% Black Flash. Kazuma quickly opened the system store. Automatic physical training card, 1 year. Price, 10,000 points. Flying Thunder God Technique. Price, 50,000 points. 100% Black Flash. Price, 10,000 points. Every punch and attack is guaranteed to be a Black Flash. High Precision Sniper. Price, 20,000 points. My lord, times have changed. Premium Cursed Tool. Special Eye Drops. Price, 500 points, prevents blindness from overuse of the Mangekyo. Dual Desert Eagle. Price, 20,000 points, special grade Cursed Tool. It has been especially imported from the Land of Freedom. Kazuma was very satisfied with the newly refreshed products. The strongest body flicker technique, Flying Thunder God, was here. And there was also 100% Black Flash? Black Flash is the strongest normal attack in Jujutsu Kaisen. Black Flash brings about a distortion in space when cursed energy is applied to a hit within 0.000001 second. However, there are only a handful of sorcerers and cursed spirits who can use Black Flash, and it is purely up to chance. Nobody can intentionally use it. Before the Shibuya incident, the record of the highest consecutive uses of Black Flash was 4 times, by Yuji and Nanami. Black Flash seems to be a good match for his 8 gates, and the price is not very expensive. So, he decisively bought it. Suddenly, heat flowed through Kazuma's mind, and an extremely mysterious light filled his whole body. After a while, he mastered all the elements of Black Flash and became extremely skilled at it. Boom! Kazuma punched the air. Black lightning suddenly appeared, and a sonic boom echoed in the infirmary. Then, Kazuma continuously threw punche without thinking. Boom! 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 Every one of his punches was wrapped in black lightning. Kazuma showed a satisfied smile and said, as expected of the system, "It is indeed 100% Black Flash. I wonder if Mahito can handle it." Kazuma still had 70,000 points left. Kazuma was confused about what to buy. He was really moved by the Flying Thunder God technique. After all, it looked so cool and it was very fast. But he already has Kamui. Damn it! Hesitation will only lead to defeat. Buy it now. Kazuma's body was instantly enveloped in a golden light, and he instantly learned the Flying Thunder God technique. Kazuma opened his eyes and took out the 2 daggers he had previously seized from the lair of curse users from the Kamui dimension. He engraved the Flying Thunder God mark on it, and then threw it out of the window. Swish! The next moment, Kazuma appeared directly on a big tree 100 meters away. At this moment, Kazuma had only one thought in his mind. So fast! This is the true meaning of teleportation. Whoosh! A vortex appeared, and Kazuma returned to the bed. He had just used Kamui and the Flying Thunder God technique in succession. It was so cool. But now that he has acquired the Flying Thunder God technique, he should leave some marks everywhere in this school. Finally, he still had 20,000 points left. Kazuma chose to buy the High Precision Sniper. He had been eyeing this sniper for a long time, but he had refrained from buying it because Madara's treasured ninjutsu scroll was of higher priority. Just imagine, while fighting, he suddenly hides in the Kamui dimension, and only a sniper barrel is exposed. He can shoot silently. He. On a beautiful beach. Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Mahito was lying on the golden beach and rolling around. Kenjaku just shook his head and laughed helplessly. Mahito said, "A cursed spirit born out of love was actually destroyed?" Even the most powerful first-grade sorcerer can't do it. Besides Gojo Satoru and those special-grade sorcerer, who else in Jujutsu High has this ability? Geto, please say something. That's top-notch research material, and it was destroyed just like that. I'm so angry. Tired of rolling around, Mahito rushed to Kenjaku's side and shook his arm, wanting an explanation. He knew that Geto Suguru was once a student of Jujutsu High and was very familiar with the situation there. Okay, don't be angry. Kenjaku touched Mahito's head lovingly and said softly, I haven't been back to Jujutsu High for a long time. Maybe there's a genius there who's as talented as Yuta? If that's the case, you'll just have to consider yourself unlucky. Hearing this, Mahito sighed, and looked towards the endless ocean in the distance. He complained feebly, why haven't Jogo and Hanami come yet? Did they get cold legs or what? They're taking so long. Kenjaku narrowed his eyes and smiled. He said, according to the latest news, the two of them are planning to attack Gojo Satoru by surprise. Do you want to join them? Mahito looked a little sluggish. Surprise attack on Gojo Satoru? Are they tired of living? Mahito said, you guys go ahead. I want to take this opportunity to make more powerful man-made cursed spirits before the war. In the infirmary. After testing the items, Kazuma lay down contentedly. The only drawback is that he didn't get an item to increase chakra. Kazuma didn't have many requirements. Putting aside Hashirama's cells, even a tailed beast would be fine too. Looking back on the battle with Sukuna, his most obvious shortcoming was his lack of cursed energy/chakra. He has a lot of techniques now, but the more techniques he has, the more chakra he needs. Speaking of which, this was obviously an important event. Why did the system not issue a mission? The system has disappeared since the mission of taking off Maki's black stockings was released. Could it be that because he had called it indecent, it got angry? Well, even though he was the one who took off the stockings, he was also the one who took advantage of it. But it's also the system's fault, right? He is a gentleman, but it actually told him to do such a thing, cough cough. Just then, a new mission choice has begun. Mission Option 1, accept Shoko's invitation to drink. Reward, chakra recovery speed plus 20%. Mission Option 2, confess why. Your love to Mei Mei. Let her tie her hair into 2 ponytails, and have an in-depth conversation. Reward, Tsukuyami. Mission Option 3, don't have any woman in mind. Become a Sigma. Reject everyone. Reward, 10,000 points. Chapter 44, Shoko's Feelings. TSK Tisk. Kazuma stroked his chin and looked at the 3 options in deep thought. First of all, let's rule out the third one. Only 10,000 points? Now, only the first and second options are left. Drinking with Shoko can increase his chakra recovery speed by 20%, which is really nice. But in terms of cost performance, Tsukuyami seems to be more attractive, especially when facing someone like Sukuna who has many eyes. After all, with his 4 eyes, Sukuna can easily look into his eyes. The genjutsu that comes with the Sharingan may lack some power. But, Tsukuyami is different. Even Sukuna, who has a strong will, would be controlled after being hit a few times. So Kazuma preferred the second option. But isn't this mission too difficult? Let's not talk about whether the confession will be successful. If he really asked Mei Mei to tie her hair in a double ponytail, will she agree? Kazuma knew that Mei Mei seemed to have some interest in him. After all, Kazuma was not like those dense harem protagonists. But he questioned the feasibility of this mission. The most outrageous thing was the in-depth communication. Is this in-depth communication a serious communication or? Hello? System, are you here? Is this a serious in-depth discussion or something else? There was no response. Damn it! If you don't answer, I'll do it in an improper way. Just as Kazuma was struggling, the door opened. Shoko's beautiful eyes widened, and a hint of anger was shown in her expression. She walked towards Kazuma with her hands on her hips. Kazuma thought, not good. He quickly wrapped the medical gauze around his eyes again and fell asleep. Due to time constraints, Kazuma just wrapped the bandage around his eyes randomly, causing the bandage to become twisted. Puff! Seeing this, Shoko, who was a little angry at first, became amused. Shoko covered her lips and chuckled. She said, well, if it's really uncomfortable, you can just take it off. After saying that, she picked up the apple on the table and started peeling it skillfully. With her permission, Kazuma took off the uncomfortable gauze. Then, his mouth was blocked by a fresh, shiny, cleanly peeled apple. He held the apple in his hand and blinked at Shoko. Shoko said, well, thank you for saving me. Do you want to have a drink with me tonight? It's my treat. Shoko blushed slightly and mustered up the courage to look at Kazuma. It would be fine if the person she was inviting was a girl. But the meaning of drinking with a boy alone was self-evident. It was undeniable that after this incident, she had developed a liking for Kazuma. Although the hero saving the beauty sounds cliché, it is effective and simple. Facing Kazuma's direct gaze, Shoko felt her body temperature rise. She averted her eyes, not daring to meet his gaze. This was the first time she was experiencing this feeling. So shameful. In fact, she had another question she wanted to ask Kazuma, but she didn't know how to start. Before, when she was hiding in Kazuma's Kamui dimension, she had seen stockings and bras. Does Kazuma have any hobbies in this area? Probably not, right? Anyway, it's better not to ask about this kind of thing. Looking at Shoko's expectant eyes, Kazuma felt a little moved. In his opinion, Shoko was so beautiful that he couldn't help but want to agree. Inside the infirmary, the atmosphere gradually became more romantic, until the two of them became lost in their own worlds. Oh no, there is also Yuji here. He is wrapped like a mummy and unconscious, but he is nevertheless still here. However, at this moment, bang! The door of the infirmary was pushed open. Shoko saw the atmosphere shatter, and the blush on her face disappeared, replaced by anger. She was about to turn around and curse, but she quickly stopped herself. Because the person who had come was none other than Mei, whom she admired. Mei walked over gracefully, while swinging her hair in front of her forehead and her long legs in black stockings. Ha! Looks like I came at the wrong time. Excuse me, I have something important to discuss with Kazuma. After saying that, Mei shook the card in her hand and looked at Shoko with an apologetic look. Shoko pouted in frustration. It seemed like she wouldn't be able to have a drink with Kazuma today. Shoko naturally knew what was in Mei's hand. It was Kazuma's teacher certificate. Mei must have a lot of things to tell Kazuma. It's better not to disturb her when she is doing serious things. Then, Kazuma, I will definitely treat you some other day, don't refuse. After saying that, Shoko skillfully closed the door of the infirmary. Kazuma looked at Mei nervously, and Mei also looked at Kazuma with a half-smile. Under normal circumstances, Kazuma would at most look at her with admiration. But now, he couldn't stay calm. His brain was working at full speed, searching for the golden sentences love confession he had seen on the internet. However, Kazuma's desperation was meaningless. All the words he could use to confess his love in his memory were not applicable to women like Mei. Those words would be okay to coax a simple girl like Maki, but they were obviously not enough to deal with the mature Mei. Just as Kazuma was thinking hard, a card was handed to him. This is... Kazuma took the card and looked at it carefully. The content above was full of information about him. The most eye-catching section was the transformation of his status from student to teacher. Other basic identity information was empty. Why is his gender also empty? There is no doubt that you have passed the teacher assessment. Please fill in the information above at your own discretion. Mei gave him a knowing look. After this incident, no one cared about Kazuma's identity anymore. He saved Shoko first and then he saved Yuji to break the conspiracy of the higher-ups. Even if Kazuma was a curse user in the past, Yaga could only pretend being blind and not seeing it. Besides, Kazuma is not a curse user. Meimei seemed to have thought of something and then added, "Your identity as a teacher is only valid in Tokyo Jujutsu High. This is the most Principal Yaga could do with his authority. As for the reason, you know it." Kazuma nodded. With this identity as a teacher, it would be easier for him to poach and teach students. Chapter 45, Confessing to Meimei. Then, Meimei also quickly peeled an apple and stuffed it into Kazuma's mouth. Kazuma was speechless, but had no choice but to bite the bullet. For the first time, he became full by just eating apples. After a brief silence, Meimei looked at Kazuma and said, "You know, from the moment we decide to become a sorcerer, we are prepared for a bad ending. So, whether it's the teachers or the students at Jujutsu High, they have never dreamed of love. Principal Yaga also divorced his wife because of this." Meimei lowered her eyes slightly, and became silent for a second. Then she said in a determined voice, "But it just so happens that I've recently fallen in love with a little brother. Because of the teacher-student relationship, I didn't have the courage to take action before. I wonder if he would mind me being older than him." Meimei's beautiful eyes flickered as she looked at Kazuma with a smile. Kazuma's body trembled. What the hell? No way? Why does he feel like she's talking about him? Kazuma didn't dare to gamble. If Meimei continues talking like this, she might just confess her love. If he doesn't confess first, the mission might not be considered complete. Come on. I can do it. Kazuma gritted his teeth and said, "Meimei-sensei, I like you, can you be my girlfriend?" As soon as these words were spoken, the atmosphere in the entire infirmary froze instantly. Meimei. Shoko, who was eavesdropping outside the door, was dumbfounded. Yuji, who had just regained consciousness, was also shocked. Ding. Warm reminder, the confession stage has been completed, please keep up the good work. Current progress 33.3% per 100%. Kazuma's mouth twitched. This system is quite user-friendly? After a moment of silence, Meimei suppressed the excitement in her eyes and pretended to be surprised. She asked, "What do you like about me?" What does he like? Speaking of liking her, he will have to start from his previous world. Since the time he had read the manga, Kazuma had developed a strong interest in Meimei. Who wouldn't love this mature and powerful lady with a slim figure and hair covering her face? But of course, he can't tell anyone about coming from another world. No one would believe him even if he told them. So he looked at Meimei and lowered his gaze slightly. He said while blushing, I like your long white legs." Oops. He accidentally said what was in his mind. Kazuma regretted his words the moment he said it. Meimei? Even she couldn't help but blush when she heard such words. Is this brat so direct? No. Is he so superficial? Of all her body parts, only her legs attracted him? Meimei gave Kazuma a cold look with a teasing smile on her lips. She said, "White legs? If I remember correctly, I seem to have always worn black stockings. How do you know my legs are white? Could it be that you used that mysterious spatial ability to do something improper? Like peeking?" Of course, she knew Kazuma would never do such a thing. She just wanted to tease him a little. She had clearly mentally prepared herself and wanted to express her feelings to Kazuma. In the end, this kid actually said it first? Ha! Although she really wanted to agree, she couldn't let him get away with it like this. Ahem. At this time, Yuji couldn't bear it anymore. He was already so badly injured, and when he woke up, he heard such an explosive conversation. Although he was now wrapped like a dumpling, and couldn't see what was happening outside, he knew that Kazuma and Meimei were the ones talking just by their voices. As expected of Kazuma. First, he pushed Nobara against a wall. Now, he didn't even plan to let Meimei-sensei go? If he wants to confess, he should at least find a place where there is no one, right? Does he really think he doesn't exist? Meimei and Kazuma both turned their eyes to Yuji. Kazuma gave Yuji a grateful look, thanking him for helping him out. Otherwise, he really wouldn't have known how to answer. Mei frowned unhappily. She came to Yuji's bedside and said with a gloomy smile, "Yuji, you probably didn't hear anything, did you? You don't want to faint again just after waking up, right?" Yuji. "Oh, I must have been injured too badly this time. I am hallucinating. I didn't hear anything." After saying this, Yuji's body stiffened and he lay flat on the bed without moving. Kazuma looked at Yuji with some sympathy. Yuji is so miserable. He just woke up and has been forced to shut down again. After doing all this, Mei looked at Kazuma thoughtfully and said, "I won't accept your confession. Unless. Come back home with me, and we'll have a good discussion about the use of cursed energy and the creation of sorcerers." Since when has his luck been this good? Kazuma was originally worried about how to proceed, but Mei just invited him home? Have an in-depth discussion on the use of cursed energy and the creation of sorcerers? He could see the excitement in Mei's eyes that was almost impossible to hide. Even though Mei hid her feelings very well, she couldn't escape his eyes. Thinking of this, Kazuma felt a chill run down his spine. Why does it feel like she is the hunter? Seeing Kazuma's expression change, Mei thought he was in a dilemma. Humph. She has already hinted so clearly and yet he's still pretending to be reserved. He has to go today. Mei said with a fake smile, "Hee, you don't want everyone to know that you secretly hide black stockings and bras in your personal dimension, right?" He was careless. If Mei hadn't told me, would have really forgotten about this. He had just casually bought Tsunade's bra from the system stoat. The reason was simple. He just wanted to refresh the items. He had absolutely no other idea. As for the black stockings? He took them off Maki's legs with his own hands. But how did Mei know about this? So far, only Shoko has entered his Kamui dominion. T/N, bro forgot about Sukuna's skull. Wait. Shoko. Kazuma slapped his forehead and suddenly realized. No wonder Shoko has been looking at him strangely since she came out of the Kamui dimension. His reputation. His social standing. His image. It has all been ruined. It's all because of this crooked system. In this case. Kazuma looked at Mei and sneered, "Go ahead. I'll have a good in-depth discussion with you tonight. But I have a small request. Can you tie your hair in a double ponytail?" Chapter 46, Going to Mei's house. A voluptuous figure walked ahead with graceful and elegant steps and an exaggerated swagger. Her long silver blue hair covered half of her face. Kazuma, who was following behind, couldn't help but complain. Even if Mei and Gojo Satoru's faces are combined together, a complete face probably still can't be formed. Kazuma wondered if Mei had agreed. Just now, after Kazuma had suggested that Mei to tie her hair into two ponytails, Mei just smiled meaningfully. She just told him to go home with her first. Tokyo. Mei's home. Mei said, "Ui, have you been studying diligently recently?" Hearing this, Kazuma became stunned. He had almost forgotten that Mei had a younger brother. Although Ui is also a sorcerer, he's still an elementary school student, who cannot escape the fate of going to school. A little boy with short blue hair and a cartoon schoolbag came running out happily. It looked like he was getting ready to go to school. "Sister, who is he?" Ui frowned slightly, scrutinizing Kazuma. His elder sister was almost 30 years old and had never been in a relationship before. This time, she actually brought a gigolo home? No. There was a fluctuation of cursed energy on his body, so he wasn't just a simple gigolo. Kazuma and Ui stared at each other. Mei introduced, "This is my younger brother, Ui. He's also a sorcerer. But he is still in school." After a brief introduction, Mei signaled Ui to go to school quickly and not be late. She gave Kazuma a look, indicating that he should go into her room. Ui didn't dare disobey his sister's order. He snorted coldly and threatened Kazuma in a low voice as he passed by. "If you dare to bully my sister, you'll be in trouble." Saying that, he waved his fists to threaten Kazuma. Kazuma pinched his cheek and smirked. He said, "If you keep meddling in other people's business, I'll buy you 10 summer homework books. I'll let your sister watch you the whole time you're writing." He. These words sounded like the devil's whisper to Uiui. Uiui's pupils contracted violently, and his breathing stagnated. How could there be such vicious and cruel people in the world? "Well, I suddenly feel that you and my sister are a good match, so I won't bother you anymore. Please let me go." After saying that, he rushed out of the house like a fly. Watching Uiui run away, Kazuma raised the corner of his mouth. A mere primary school student is nothing to be afraid of. In Mei-Mei's room, the light was not switched on. A faint glow seeped through the gap in the curtains, providing some brightness. Apart from a dusty TV, there was no other furniture. Over the years, I have usually lived in the school dormitory with Utaheim and rarely came home. Kazuma turned his head and saw Mei-Mei sitting in front of the mirror, looking at him with a smile through the reflection. At this moment, her hair was disheveled. Her long silver blue strands cascaded down her shoulders like a galaxy. "Bring it on." "Ah? Didn't you want to see twin tails?" "I'll satisfy your fetish, but you have to do it yourself." Mei-Mei's lips curled into a sly smile as if to say, "I understand you." Kazuma took a deep breath and walked behind her. Mei-Mei's hair was silky and smooth. Without hesitation, he picked up his phone and searched for tutorials on how to do twin ponytails. As he watched and learned, a pair of energetic, clever, and lively twin ponytails took shape before his eyes. Looking at herself in the mirror, Mei-Mei slightly smiled, and a hint of playfulness appeared in her gaze. She had never expected that she would experience such a scene. Kazuma couldn't take his eyes off her. His mind heated up, and he dazedly reached out to hold the two ponytails. Then, he gently pulled back. Mei-Mei? How dare he? She was no longer a little girl. She naturally knew what this action meant. She bit her red lips tightly, feeling ashamed and angry. What's going on in this little bastard's head all day long? From the first time they had met, she could feel that Kazuma was very concerned about her hair, almost as if he had a deep obsession. So, this was what he was thinking? Humph. Forget it, let him have his fun. No matter how Kazuma behaved, she couldn't bring herself to blame him. Mei-Mei was a woman with a strong character. If she were to choose a partner, it had to be a man with strong abilities, someone who could completely conquer her. And Kazuma completely met her standards. Whether it was his tracking skills or the strength he had displayed before, he was astonishing. She had always been decisive and didn't like dragging things out. Once she made a decision, she acted immediately. Ding! Warm reminder, the achievement Twin Ponytails has been unlocked. Please keep up the good work. Current progress, 66.6%/100%. The system's notification pulled Kazuma back to reality. Looking at Mei-Mei's red ears and angry eyes, he quickly let go. Damn it! This is all because he has read too many materials and developed a muscle memory. Seeing this, Kazuma immediately apologized with a sheepish smile, ahem. I couldn't help it. Sorry. Mei-Mei asked, does it feel good? Kazuma nodded subconsciously and then immediately shook his head violently. Ha ha. Mei-Mei rolled her eyes at him and said, are you satisfied? Then it's my turn now. This time, she wanted to learn some jujutsu and combat skills from Kazuma. After all, he always came up with astonishing techniques. And he was even able to suppress Sukuna throughout their fight in terms of hand-to-hand combat. Perhaps, she could learn something from him, apply it to her own techniques, and advance to a special grade sorcerer. Chapter 47, Tsukuyumi. Under the night light, bright silver beams fell into the room. Kazuma and Mei-Mei lay on the bed, facing each other. The two were in a somewhat delicate state, with no clothes on and only a thin quilt covering their bodies. Mei-Mei raised an eyebrow and sneered, what? Wasn't your mind full of unscrupulous thoughts before? Now you're calm? Just now, she had wanted to ask Kazuma some questions. But Kazuma was completely absent-minded, and just stared at the two ponytails on her head. Fine then, if he was going to act like that, she might as well just be straightforward and invite him to bed to get his fill. But in the end, this kid seemed to be so shocked that he became obedient? Looking at Mei-Mei's vaguely visible buns, Kazuma felt his body temperature rise. Along with his temperature, something else was rising, and it wasn't the shield hero. He quickly grabbed a pillow and put it between his legs. Now that he and Mei-Mei were so close, it would be bad if he poked her with a dangerous weapon. Right now, it felt like his eyes were on auto-aim. He was unable to move his sights away. Kazuma sighed helplessly and said, "Mei-Mei, the scenery is too dazzling. My brain can't function properly." Mei-Mei's lips curled slightly and she said, "Really?" Kazuma was about to nod when he suddenly felt his vision darken. His entire head was buried in an incredibly soft, dough-like embrace, and a milky scent filled his senses. Is this heaven? Feeling the burning breath on her chest, Mei-Mei's face flushed slightly. She gently caressed the back of his head and whispered, "Kazuma, are you willing to die for me?" Kazuma silently inhaled the milky fragrance and muttered, "Die? I would happily die right now." Mei-Mei patted his head and said, "Don't give me that. You're not as simple as you seem. Be serious." Even though they had already become so close to each other, she still didn't fully understand Kazuma's true thoughts. From the first time they had met, she had felt that Kazuma was like a mysterious whirlpool, a quagmire. The moment she tried to explore him, there was no way out. Kazuma became silent for a moment before replying in a deep voice. "I only live for myself, but I can ensure that I'll definitely make you the happiest woman in the world." After a brief silence, Mei-Mei revealed a satisfied smile and said, "I'm quite pleased with that answer. Then let's have a deeper conversation. T/N, sorry for blue-balling you guys like that." The next morning, Mei-Mei and Kazuma took a bath and prepared to return to school. Congratulations to the host for completing the mission. Tsukuyomi is automatically being integrated into the Sharingan. Host, please be prepared. Huh? If it's going to be integrated, then just do it. Why does he need to be prepared? But the next second, a chilling cold current filled his eyes, and the scene before him instantly changed. A blood moon hung in the sky, crows blocked out the sun, and an enclosed space stretched infinitely. A cross stood firmly on the ground, exuding a terrifying, abyss-like aura. Is this the same as Itachi's? Kazuma muttered to himself as he took in the eerily familiar scene. Suppressing his excitement, he slightly willed his mind. Swish! Countless massive nails pierced the cross in an instant, transforming the once empty structure into a bristling hedgehog. Just imagine if he dragged an enemy in here and let them enjoy this for 3 days and 3 nights. Without a doubt, anyone with a weak will would completely collapse. What a powerful genjutsu! Its power far exceeded the basic genjutsus of the Sharingan. As expected of Tsukuyomi. If used well, it could become a deadly trump card. Don't Sukuna and Kenjaku love playing mind games? Well, he had plenty of hidden cards himself. After a moment, his vision returned to the real world. Mei-Mei leaned on his shoulder. Her hair was messy, as if she had just fought a battle. A satisfied smile lingered on her lips. At this moment, her complexion was rosy. Her skin was radiant, and her entire presence exuded an irresistible charm. Thinking back to last night's madness, Kazuma couldn't help but savor the memory. He had to admit that Mei-Mei had incredible endurance. After some hesitation, the two of them had tried every possible position they could think of. Her alluring voice involuntarily echoed in his mind. Later, Yaga will hold a ceremony for your promotion to a teacher. Remember to perform well. Feeling Kazuma's gaze, Mei-Mei weakly reminded him. Tokyo Jujutsu High. On a football field. Yuji, Nobara, Megumi, and the second-year students. Maki, Inumaki, and Panda sat obediently in the audience, listening to Yaga's speech. Yuji, are you healed already? Kazuma casually sat on a stool, eyeing Yuji in shock. Yuji was wrapped in bandages just yesterday, but today he was completely fine? Even with his special physique, wasn't this a bit too outrageous? Yuji said, "How could my injuries heal so fast? My internal injuries haven't fully healed yet. Gojo-sensei asked me to come here. He said he'd treat me to some movies later." Kazuma simply smiled and said nothing. He knew that Yuji was about to undergo special training with Gojo. Watching movies was actually a way to train his cursed energy output. It seemed that Yuji's strength was about to skyrocket. Then, Yuji rubbed his hands together and winked playfully. He said, "But speaking of which, Kazuma, you're really something. You definitely went on a date with Mei-Mei-sensei last night, right? I heard everything. So, how did it go? Did you hold hands? Did you kiss? I feel like you're really good at this. You actually confessed directly? Teach me. I've never been in a relationship before, hee. Kazuma's mouth twitched. So, Yuji had woken up early yesterday? Speaking of Yuji's relationship, wasn't there a girl in the original story who had secretly liked Yuji for a long time? Yuji's voice was loud, so their entire conversation was now audible to everyone around them. It seemed like Kazuma had some explaining to do now. Chapter 48, Kazuma the Playboy. What? Did they hear that right? Kazuma actually confessed to Mei-Mei? No wonder, the two of them just came back together. For a while, everyone looked at Mei-Mei and Kazuma with subtle eyes. Panda rubbed his chin and said, "TSK. You know what? Mei-Mei-sensei seems to have become more beautiful, and she looks even more charming now." And Kazuma. Wait. There's a pink mark on his neck that hasn't been wiped off. For a while, everyone examined Kazuma carefully. TSK. No way? Did Kazuma really succeed? A voice suddenly came from behind as a hand landed on Kazuma's shoulder. Kazuma, I didn't realize you even got Mei-Mei. Gojo teased, "I thought you were going on a date with Shoko last night." As soon as these words were spoken, the whole place fell silent. Judging from that, it seemed that even Shoko was interested in Kazuma? Wow! Kazuma's only been here for a few days, and he's already hooked up with two teachers? The resentful look on Shoko's face in the stands made it seem like Kazuma might soon fall victim to her wrath. Nobara suddenly snapped, "Hey! Can you two grown men stop gossiping?" Gojo grinned and said, "Why are you reacting so strongly? Could it be that you also?" No. Nobara practically sprang out of her seat like a spring. She loudly denied, "I have absolutely no thoughts about Kazuma." Silence. Absolute silence. If this were any other time, it might not be a big deal, but right now, they were in a formal meeting, with teachers and students present. Everyone's eyes turned to Nobara. Didn't she just confirm something? Gojo was just joking, but why did she react so strongly? Leaning in, Gojo whispered in Kazuma's ear, "You're really amazing, Kazuma. Remember to be responsible for all of them. Don't run off to buy milk." Additionally, it wasn't hard to notice that Maki also had a strange expression. But Gojo didn't dare put his assumption to the test. Even Yaga had stopped speaking. The whispers in the audience had already distracted him, and now things had completely exploded? Did they not take him, the principal, seriously? Nobara! What are you doing? And the others, if you have grievances, go settle them with Kazuma privately. Even though he was scolding, internally, Yaga was grinning. He had been wondering how to keep Kazuma tied to Jujutsu High. Now, he finally had a chance. If what he had heard was true. Mei-Mei, who was obsessed with money, had done a great service to Jujutsu High. Go on, bind Kazuma to Jujutsu High. Offstage, Kazuma was already sweating. Mei-Mei was just standing there, menacingly. She crossed her arms, and an amused yet slightly dangerous glint flashed in her eyes. And then there was the faint smirk at the corner of Yaga's lips. Kazuma understood immediately. Alright. Yaga, if you want to play like this, don't blame me for poaching your talents. I'll dig them all out until you're left as a lone commander. No. Maybe I should just poach him too and make him the principal of my own organization. Kamui has had this idea for a while, which was why he hadn't made any moves to make an Akatsuki base yet. After all, wasn't this place already the perfect base? Yaga coughed and announced loudly, "Alright, everyone, quiet down. I now declare that Tokyo Jujutsu High has a new teacher." The students in the audience looked at each other in confusion. A new teacher? Everyone knew that in order to become a teacher, one needed to be at least a semi-first grade sorcerer and had to pass an evaluation with multiple instructors. But apart from Kazuma, they hadn't seen any new faces recently. Could it be that Yuki, who loved traveling the most, had finally gotten tired of wandering and decided to come back as a teacher? For a while, the uninformed students whispered among themselves. Yaga glanced at Kazuma and said, "Will the new teacher please come up and introduce themselves?" Hearing Yaga, Kazuma knew that it was time and got up. "Hey! Stupid Kazuma, where are you going?" Seeing him stand up, Nobara hissed in a low voice. At this time, Yuji and the others also turned to look at Kazuma with puzzled expressions. Kazuma gave everyone a reassuring smile. Panda suddenly realized something and exclaimed, "Wait! Could he be the new teacher?" Kazuma walked onto the stage. He first flashed a smile at Mei before turning to face the confused crowd below. "Hello, everyone. My name is Kazuma. I'm Tokyo Jujutsu High's new teacher. Please take care of me in the future." The audience erupted. "What? It's really him. You guessed it, Panda. Damn, are you a prophet?" Yuji and Megumi stared at Kazuma in disbelief. Not cool, man. They had been fighting cursed spirits together in Roppongi just a few days ago, and now he was suddenly a teacher? They thought they were brothers, but Kazuma sees them as students? When did he even pass the teaching evaluation? Kazuma's strength was undeniable. But still, was it really okay for this guy to be a teacher? Why does he somehow feel even less reliable than Gojo? Nobara's eyes were complicated. Damn it! This guy's her teacher now? How is she supposed to make him bow down and call her queen? Yaga, however, looked smug. Panda's mouth twitched and he said, "This is crazy. Is he really sure about this?" Just a second ago, Kazuma had been a student. Now, he was suddenly a teacher? This shift was too much. Inumaki murmured, Tuna. Expressing surprise. Maki's lips curled slightly. Unlike the others, who were either shocked or opposed, she actually approved Thaya decision. The 8 inner gate that Kazuma had given her before? She could already easily open the 2nd gate now. Her strength had improved significantly, and Panda and the others were no longer strong enough to be her sparring partners. Maki smirked slightly. This might turn out to be interesting. Chapter 49, Questioning Kazuma about his techniques. Now that Kazuma has become a teacher, wouldn't it be easier to get his guidance? If she wants to become stronger quickly, she must find a way to make the most use of him. The other teachers already knew about the situation and did not show any surprise. Except for Yutaheim, who had just returned from a mission. Yutaheim? With such a strong reaction, it seems that everyone recognizes Kazuma as a teacher. Yaga showed a dangerous smile and glanced below. He wanted to see who would dare to object his decision. Especially the rebellious Panda, who had just spoken the loudest. He had to be careful with Kazuma's lazy personality. Otherwise, if Kazuma quit, it would be too late to regret. Since no one objects, let's raise a few questions and adjourn the meeting. Me. Gojo suddenly called out from the student group. Kazuma-sensei, where did you learn those strange curse techniques? This question had been on his mind for a while, especially after hearing other teachers talk about Kazuma's strange methods. Kazuma curse technicia included spewing fire, releasing water, and even making a huge ball? Even though he had never seen it, just hearing about it piqued his curiosity. Yes, yes, yes. We also want to know Kazuma, no. How does Kazuma-sensei know so many cursed techniques? At this moment, no one cared about Kazuma becoming a teacher. They were more curious about his skill set. The one who was the most interested in this was Yuji. In the previous incident, his consciousness had been confused and occupied, almost putting him in a coma. But who could have imagined that he would suddenly hear thunder, followed by an electric current that paralyzed his entire body, jolting him awake? Those moves had really hit hard. Therefore, he had the most to say about this. Not only the students, but even Meimei, Shoko, Nanami, and Yutaheim cast interested glances. Kazuma felt a bit cornered. This question was tricky. Where did he learn those techniques? Of course, it was given by the system. But he can't really tell anyone about the system. Under everyone's expectant gaze, Kazuma uttered just 4 words. I learned it online. Everyone looked at Kazuma with disbelief. Kazuma insisted, what I said is true, I swear. If I'm lying, I'll never eat coriander ever again in my life. Everyone refuted, hey. You don't eat coriander anyway. At this moment, Meimei stood up and said, okay, everyone has their own secrets. Don't force it. Tisk, it's only been a day. You've even started speaking up for your own family. The meeting was over, and the teachers all left. On the playground, Panda was sparring with Nobara and Yuji. Kazuma sat on the steps and watched the fight. It seemed that Nobara had mastered some of the essentials of the 8 inner gates. The loud shout she had made before sending Panda flying was her opening the first gate. Looking at Panda's shocked expression, Kazuma wanted to laugh. Guess he hadn't expected this year's newcomers to be so powerful. Kazuma. A cold female voice sounded beside his ear. Maki sat down next to him somewhat awkwardly, looking as if she wanted to say something but hesitated. After all, what had happened last time was still vivid in her mind. Does he still have those stockings? No. She clearly had other things to discuss, so why did her mind keep wandering back to that? Seeing Maki shake her head frantically, Kazuma was speechless. Kazuma said, we're all family. Just say what you want to say. This isn't like you. Maki knew that the family Kazuma was referring to was the Akatsuki. Maki said, well, I came to thank you. Ever since I learned the technique you gave me, Panda can no longer keep up with my strength. So if you're free recently, I'd like to ask for your guidance. Maki's face slightly red, and she muttered in a very soft voice, I'm wearing black stockings. Hiss. Kazuma took a sharp breath. Since Maki had said so, of course he's free. As for Yaga, who wanted to talk to him? Let him wait for now. He was a teacher now. How could he refuse a cute student who was asking for his guidance? Kazuma hurriedly said, Maki, I'm free, and I can give you all the guidance you need. A high-level meeting. The atmosphere in a devil's cave was solemn. Seeing the situation, several servants withdrew on their own initiative. At this moment, an old voice echoed, even though certain key figures have been transferred away, Yuji was still allowed to survive. Boom! Inside the room, a cane tapped against N4, issuing a dissatisfied warning. According to the informant, all of this was because of a rookie named Kazuma. Kazuma? An old man opened his wrinkled eyelids and said, I have never heard of such a person. According to our sources, he just joined Jujutsu High not long ago, and the person who recommended him was Gojo Satoru. When these words were spoken, a hint of surprise flashed in the eyes of several old men. At the same time, they secretly acknowledged the seriousness of this matter. Gojo's strength was undeniable. If they acted too rashly, the consequences could be catastrophic. In that case, let's call these two over and give them a good warning. I agree. A black sports car was speeding along a winding mountain road. Kazuma stared at the scenery outside the window in a trance. Don't be nervous, Kazuma-kun. Those old-timers are just making some noise to show their presence. They are just attention seekers. I know I am the best, but they don't have to try so hard to make me notice them. If they trouble you later, I'll treat them to a meal. Gojo's confident voice rang out from the driver's seat that made Kazuma snap out of his thoughts. Hearing this, Ichigo, who was driving, broke out in a cold sweat. His hands that were on the steering wheel slightly trembled. Kazuma's mouth twitched. A meal, huh? If things get out of hand, it won't be just a meal. It might turn into an all-you-can-handle disaster. If things really escalate, there is a chance of half the city being destroyed. Kazuma sighed. Trouble was brewing. Chapter 50, Hashirama Cells. As for why the higher-ups wanted to meet with him this time? It was obvious. It was most likely because their plan to kill Yuji had failed, right? Now, they wanted to give him a warning. After all, in their eyes, he was not as strong as Gojo. Maybe they just thought he was easy to control. As for why he was in a trance just now? It was because the road looked too familiar. Wasn't this the place where Gojo was ambushed by Jogo at night? According to his memory of the plot, it should happen in the evening. In other words, he is bound to be attacked by that volcano head when he returns. Poor Jogo. He's clearly the strongest among the disaster curses, but he fought against the top 2 of the JJK world, which made it seem like he was weak. After getting beaten by Gojo, he was instantly reduced to ashes by Sukuna in the Shibuya incident. Just as Kazuma was debating whether to endure the higher-ups' nonsense or simply wipe them all out. Ding! A new mission choice has begun. Mission Option 1. Face the attack from the corrupt high-ranking officials and fight back. Reward, Uchiha clan swordsmanship. Mission Option 2, beat up Jogo. And use the true essence of water release against Jogo, by adding spit to it. Reward, 1 chakra card. Mission Option 3, save Yoshino Junpei from his tragic fate. Reward, 1,000 years of death, Kakashi's original creation. Mission Option 4, only children make choices, adults take them all. Accept all 3 missions above. Reward, Hashirama cells, use with caution. System, are you serious? Isn't the right choice obvious? Kazuma immediately locked his gaze on the 4th option. His biggest weakness right now was lack of chakra. If he could transplant Hashirama's cells, that problem would disappear. With some luck, he might even master wood release. Madara's ninjutsu scroll contained many powerful wood release techniques, but he couldn't use them. He had initially assumed that these techniques would just gather dust in his mind. But now, maybe wood release, the strongest nature transformation in the Naruto world, could appear in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen. Imagine it. When Susanoo meets True's several thousand hands. How legendary would that battle be? Handling 3 missions at once? No problem. This was just a side quest while waiting for the main plot to progress. By the way, Junpei was a good kid. Why not bring him into Akatsuki? When reading Jujutsu Kaisen, Kazuma had initially thought that Junpei would be redeemed and would later join Jujutsu High as a sorcerer. But instead, he was manipulated by Mahito and ended up dying. His poor single mother also met a tragic fate, brutally being killed by a cursed spirit. But that will not happen this time. But this system was getting more and more sinister. It was telling him to use spit-enhanced water release? Genius. Why hadn't he thought of that before? From now on, his water release would have to be classified as an S-rank forbidden technique. After all, there was no defense against it. Kazuma smirked and silently started planning what to do next. Gojo asked, Kazuma-kun, why are you grinning? Kazuma said, ahem, nothing. Gojo was increasingly unable to guess what was going on in Kazuma's head. So he simply handed him a pair of noise-canceling headphones. Gojo said, wear these when you go in to meet those old fogies. I bet after 3 songs, they'll be done, hee hee. Clearly, Gojo had been nagged by the higher-ups far too often. Director's office. The atmosphere in the room was so tense that even a pin drop could be heard. Kazuma and Gojo stood in the center, while putting their hands in their pockets, exuding pure arrogance. Several large doors surrounded them, hiding the top executives, as if they couldn't bear to be seen. Seeing the utter lack of respect from the duo, a few cold snorts came from behind the doors. Clearly, the higher-ups were displeased. Even Principal Yaga had to bow respectfully and listen attentively when entering this room. But these two? Chins raised, gazes indifferent, they clearly didn't take the higher-ups seriously at all. Gojo Satoru, is this the kind of student you've been raising? He doesn't even know the most basic etiquette? Perhaps because of the special formations in the room or the strange door setup, the voices echoed ominously, making it impossible to pinpoint their exact source. Kazuma sneered. These old guys love their little mind games. Every word they spoke echoed endlessly. Was this supposed to make them seem mysterious? Or just help them bluff? And his arrogant, rebellious attitude? Well, that was Gojo's idea. He had told Kazuma, if you can piss them off, do it. If you can piss them off to madness? Even better. Classic Gojo. Facing the scolding, Gojo smirked and said, really? I think Kazuma is quite polite. With that, he pulled down his black blindfold, revealing his mesmerizing pale blue six eyes. Then, with a tone dripping in mockery, he continued, and he's quite capable. Thanks to him, Yuji's life was saved this time. He's much better than some old guys who talk a lot but can't even get the most basic information right. Kazuma raised an eyebrow. Wow, that was blunt. Gojo had just casually insulted them all. Now, how was Kazuma supposed to complete his mission? Was he supposed to complain about the slippery floors next? The bad air circulation? Who cares? He decided to ignore it. Are you questioning the top brass for deliberately providing false information? A majestic voice echoed through the room. That wraps up this part of What If Ninja in Jujutsu Kaisen. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Just a quick reminder, the story What If There Was a Different Luffy is going on hold soon as we have almost caught up with the author. So once again, I'd love to hear your thoughts on what the next project should be here on the channel. I'm currently considering these 3 fanfics. What if Ichigo awoke his true powers? What if becoming a mangaka in One Piece world? What if Reborn as Gohan in future timeline? Let me know which one you'd like to see next by voting in the poll. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.